Welcome, everyone, to the Astrophotography Podcast. My name's Steve Malley. I'm from Ontario Telescope and Accessories. Thank you very much for joining us. We're taking it to a whole new level now. Before, you were only able to hear us. Now you're going to be able to see me and our guests that we have on the show. And we have a very, very special guests with us today. We have Filippo and Omar all the way from Italy from PrimaLuce, and we have Tom from PrimaLuce as well, but he's in the USA. And Tom woke up super early for this, so I'm grateful that you did that. And it's towards the end of the day for our friends in Italy. And it's just, every day for me here, except today. Today's my birthday. So, this is a great gift for me that we're able to do this together. It was important to me. I wanted to elevate the podcast to something else. I thought we need to have some real good guests on here. And I thought, who better else to have, some of the best baristas that you can have at a trade show. They have the best coffee that they offer. You go to Nice and that's a place to go check out. We were next to each other at Nice, our booths, and I said, I got to have PrimaLuce on. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on this podcast today.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. You're welcome, man. Let's just talk about PrimaLuce. Like, where did it come from? Like, what started PrimaLuce? Give us a brief history.
Yeah, first of all, PrimaLuceLab means laboratory of first light. And everything came from one day, me and Omar were talking about what to do next in terms of development. And we were still not in the business, but we were doing astrophotography because we met when we were 16, 17 maybe. He's older than me. He is older than me, a lot older than me. So, but essentially, we met at the local club, and we were always searching for new things. I think they were 30 years ago. So we were still with film photography, film astrophotography. Still early days of astrophotography, we're not still digital.
There was the Hale-Bopp comet.
Yeah, we were trying to take picture of the Hale-Bopp, something like that. So it was 1996,
I remember that comet because that was a big comet, and it was in the south sky, and it was slow, and you can see it naked eye. It was beautiful. And I have to, after this recording, I'm going to have to go and Google what film is, because I don't know what film. I'm kidding.
Yeah, it was very hard, to record any small detail. It was really very. So we essentially had the opportunity to experience the digital revolution in astrophotography. And more than 10 years ago, we decided to start developing our own devices. So the devices we would like to use in order to improve our astrophotography experience. And I remember we were talking about what to do and how to start a business. And Omar said to me, listen, we can do something great, but we have to focus on developing something new that we can show all around the world. I don't want to sell telescopes. I want to invent something because he's a designer, So he really wants to create something new. And we had few ideas already running, already in our minds. So we said, okay, we want to create something that doesn't exist to provide a better experience to explore the universe. And that was not limited to astrophotography, to visual astrophotography, let's say visual optical wavelength astrophotography. We had back then the idea to create something new also in radio wavelengths. And that's why we have two catalogs of two different products. One is the radio telescope, that is the one that is behind the dome. and that is called the Spider, in honor of the spidery leg that flew in the space with Apollo 9. And we have also our astrophotography stuff with all our devices, as you know, together with the Eagle. That is in honor of the other lamp name. So we like to name our big products in honor of the lamps that flew in space,
Okay. Yeah.
And this is everything that is why everything, where we started from. And essentially, we created the business in our town here in Italy. We have been selected by the scientific center of our region. And we started, me and him, just alone. And we progressively developed step by step the companies. We met Tom in 2017. Yeah, I remember correctly, Tom?
I think so, yeah.
And so he decided that to join the company. And now the company is 15 people in Italy and 2 people in US. And it's growing, developing more and more devices. So we are really happy, but still passionate, especially to astrophotography, because it's our passion. It's the thing that we do at home as a hobby still, but we do also as a business. So,
and that's fantastic. And I hear that theme from the companies that really have that passion, but behind their products, because they're imagers themselves, astrophotographers themselves, and they want a better product. They want a product that will do what they need it to do that doesn't already exist. So they go and they make it, and then they share it with everyone else. And I think that's just a fantastic way to do business and to share astrophotography with others, right?
I was Filippo's customer first, and I worked at Apple, and I was doing astrophotography, and I was suffering with my gear. And when I met him, he was announcing the Eagle 2. And we met at I helped share a booth with him. I was kind of helping out Avalon at a trade show in San Jose, and they were sharing a booth with Filippo. And when I met him, he gave me this Eagle 2 for helping him in the booth, and it completely changed how I did everything. And we became friends, and I worked for a very quality-minded, technologically driven, quality-driven company. And I saw the same level of quality in their products. So I latched onto them very quickly. And I firmly believe, and I always tell people this, that Omar was touched by the hand of God to build really cool astronomy products. And they were so good, they got me to quit my job. And I felt like they needed a U.S. presence because I unfortunately had a service issue and it had to go back to Italy. And the process was a lot more traumatic than it needed to be. And so we decided that if there was a U.S. presence, it started out with doing simple repairs here. But then it became obvious that getting products to the customers just as quickly as repairs, it was just as important. So we spun up the U.S. side and
absolutely. So Tom, you head up the U.S. side and you supply all the various products.
So we're the sole importer for PrimaLuceLab, and
okay.
We distribute to a system of resellers here in the U.S.
In the U.S., so you handle just the U.S. market.
Yeah,
itself.
Tax-wise, for you guys in Canada, it's more efficient for Italy to ship directly to you guys,
and it works well. It works very well. Right. So
but for service, it's probably quicker for us to handle repairs from this region because it's also we get to speak with the customers on the phone in their time range, not have to work off hours.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's very important in this industry as well, is the ability to get something repaired if needed. Right. In all the time that I've sold PrimaLuce myself, the need to get something repaired is very minimal. And a lot of times it can be helped through email or a remote session to get something back up and running, right? But I think that's such a strong offering for any company to have a local presence for repair or servicing, so to get back up and running, because we only get so many clear nights as it is, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people might be hesitant to buy an Italian product, thinking that, well, if something happens, what do I do?
I remember, it's funny, you bring that up. My father worked for Kodak, right? So I do know what film is. I had more film in our refrigerator than you could shake a stick at, right?
Okay.
And I had a very early digital camera, more point and shoot. I think I still have it somewhere. But that was something I remember him telling me in terms, like, the machines that they would get from Italy were very high quality, right? So I would expect the same, and I've seen it too from what you guys produce. PrimaLuce puts out is very high quality, and it just works out of the box. So to me, that's a bonus and a plus.
Well, and it's not easy, because we really not only we design, we create the prototypes, we test everything, but we really assemble, calibrate, and really physically create the product. It's here in our company, where we have our assembly lines with all the people working on that. It's not a huge company, of course. We are talking about 15 people here in the company. But we really like the fact that in a world that is used to made in China products, we do here all our product, and we test and we calibrate. And I see all the guys working day by day on assembling and testing and calibrating system. And in fact, when you open one of our boxes, you see the quality inspection text passed with the sign of the person that really tested, calibrated the focuser, the eagle, the rotator, whatever you are going to buy and use. So I think it's an important value that adds even more to the technical aspect of the product.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it adds that extra confidence to the consumer that they're buying something that they know out of the box. They can assemble it, put it on their scope, and it just works, right? And not going to have a problem.
I think one of my favorite things, one of my favorite parts of the job, coming from a long engineering background, is whenever I have an idea or if I get some feedback from a customer and I send a note to Omar at night before I go to bed, a lot of times when I wake up in the morning, there's a 3D drawing for me. Like, did you mean this?
Great. So, okay, let's talk about the product a bit. So we know about PrimaLuce, where it started from, and the drive behind it, right? And it reflects in the products. But there's some pretty specific products that you guys produce, right? The focusers, the Eagle. I still use my Eagle core. You keep evolving these products, and just recently you announced a ghost mode for everything. So now everything, if you have an Eagle and you have an Asado, and with that, if you have an Arco on it, with an Alto and the Giotto, I'm saving all those names correctly, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
You saw there, we were looking at this unit here,
Yeah, but it's all integrated together. So you've taken everything to a whole other level already. So customers that already have equipment, they're getting more functionality out of it. Explain to me then, okay, the ghost mode, let's run through that really quick. And then the product, all those products I mentioned, right? With the robustness that they offer, how that really works well in a remote imaging setup, right? If somebody has an observatory in the Southern Hemisphere, right? Or even in their backyard, like I have, right? And I it gets cold up here where I am, right? So I like just to have my dome open and I sit in my nice warm office and do everything, but I need to make sure that I can control things. So go over what we can do from a remote setup and how that would all work out.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the important thing that you see here, we have two setups that are completely different. And our goal is to take any telescope and convert it into a remotely operated telescope. No matter the telescope type, the camera type, the mount type you have. So, and that's because we always used the Windows-based computer, laptop back then, in order to control any device we would like to control with the software that we would like to use. And with this idea in mind, we decided to make a step forward, but in the development of the astrophotography techniques, but still with this idea of the open system. Because we really think that having the market with 30, 40, 50 different brands that day by day work and compete in order to create new and better products, it's important from a customer point of view to be able to use them all. So the thing is, why have to develop a closed system that forced you and that locks you into something? We wanted to just the opposite. So we want to be able to control any telescope, mount, camera, and other accessories, even the ones from our competitors. We don't care. But we want to provide the people the system that allow them to choose the device and the user and to control them with the software that they prefer. This is the idea of the open system. And with this idea, we developed the Eagle computer that is essentially a Windows computer built into a box that includes a lot of different features, sensors, and devices, and all in one box. That is a computer, a power distributorship system, a Wi-Fi networking system, a dew heater controller, GPS, sky quality meter sensor, inclinometer, motion detector sensor, and all in one system, but that still uses Windows. So it has all the advantages of using a laptop computer, a standard Windows laptop computer, so you can connect any device, you can use any software you want, but with a form factor that has been specifically designed for telescopes.
That's it.
So I made my pitch elevator speech.
Well, now, if you decide to buy our focusers and our calibration equipment, the products that we build that have Wi-Fi built in, we have kind of rewarded the PrimaLuce loyal customer with the ability to remove the USB cable between our devices and the Eagle. The Eagle's built-in Wi-Fi networking, and then the devices built in.
As you can see, we can show it in detail here. So you see that.
Yeah, this was the thing we showed at NEAF and it was super satisfying because I shipped my telescope there prior to the software update, and so it had all my cable bundling still had all of my USB cables in it. So we set up at the show. It was very satisfying to go and pull all those out of my bundles and drop them in a pile on the floor. It's super easy to configure, and the really cool thing about it is, let's say you're in a remote observatory. It's a good thing to turn on and then leave the USB cables, because if anything ever happens, you have another way to talk to your device.
That's true. So you have built-in redundancy there if you need it. And you know, talking about remote observatories, and I think of, again, my backyard observatory. I have a sky shed pod in my backyard, and I have my setup over there. And one problem I run into, is sometimes connectors coming out, right? And the power connectors that you're using, right, they're industrial rated connectors.
Yeah, they're threaded. Yeah, for that reason.
They have a capture on it. I used, actually, from another career long, long ago. I used to actually sell very similar type of connectors for industrial applications that prevented outside elements from getting in and affecting that connection, right? So in a remote observatory, again, whether it's in a backyard or it's in the southern hemisphere or you're in the mountains somewhere, any part of the world, it doesn't matter, right? Those connections are then protected, right? Which I think is very important, because if you were to lose that connection or if it came out, you'd probably pay any amount of money.
I mean, it's nice having the eagle with the telescope rotating with it so that you don't get a lot of the cable wrap issues.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, they can still happen, and threaded power plugs are, a lot of people might find them inconvenient. I find them great. You put them on, you don't have to worry about them. And we even sell like the blank plugs if you want to.
Yeah.
So they're readily available. It's a safer option, especially remotely deployed.
So essentially, this telescope has no USB cables from all our Esatto, Arco, Giotto, and Alto going to the ether, because everything is wireless. But the thing is that in order to control all the devices, you don't need to have special software or special drivers, because essentially you still use your standard Aston drivers, or you can use Blade in the same way you would use with cables, but without cables. Because essentially with the ghost mode technology, the Eagle create a sort of virtual USB cable. So Windows thinks that there is a USB cable, but there is not.
Yeah.
And that's why we say that we start with the USB cable. That's right. And that's the boredom. And it's also my broken pack over there. It's always prepped.
So it in ghost mode, it is completely seamless to the Windows operating system. It doesn't matter if there's a cable there or not. It sees it as a USB connection.
You don't have to change anything in the software. You just select the code part related to ghost mode.
Okay. And that's all controlled within the Eagle Manager?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Eagle does all these things automatically. It is Eagle Manager that takes control of the system, but from the software point of view, is completely transferred. So there is nothing you have to do. Just activate ghost mode. The Eagle create a new COM port number associated to the device that is connected in ghost mode. And if you run any, let's say that you use Nina to control the Esatto focuser through our Ascon driver. In the Ascon driver settings, you just enter the ghost mode COM port and you connect it as you would do with a standard cable, but in wireless mode.
And it's easy. The Eagle Manager tells you, like in the lower left part of the screen, what device is on what COM port.
These are the devices that are actually connected in ghost mode. So we have an Alto, an Esatto, and the Giotto. And the Alto is related to COM44, the Esatto to COM40, Giotto to COM46. And that's it. Very simple. And you have in the Eagle Manager interface. So there is nothing that you really have to do. You don't have to add the new software, change your drivers, nothing. Is just managed and controlled by the Eagle itself, and then you can use the same software you were using before ghost mode. That's the same.
Again, it's completely seamless. Not right to the operating system. Nothing's changed.
Nothing changed.
If you go in Device Manager, you'll see the new devices listed under those numbers. They look just like regular hardware devices.
You guys have the ultimate solution for astrophotography with a camera. Let's talk about Spider a little bit. And who is this really for?
Yeah.
Is it a research thing? Can the amateur astrophotographer who wants to get into radio, can Can they buy this as well? Do you have customers that do that? Right.
Yeah.
What's involved? Tell us about the spider system.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the idea of the spider radio telescope came from my personal studies that I did related to radio astronomy many years ago, and it was clear to me that there was no ready-to-use compact radio telescope in the same way that you can right now buy any optical telescope without knowing how they work. Because if you use any type of telescope, you may not know the optics basis, For the radio telescope, it was the opposite. 15 years ago, you had to study radio astronomy. You had to be an electronic engineer, a radio expert engineer, and build parts. As I would say, amateur astronomy 50 or 60 years ago, And there was nothing really to use and buy, because if I want to record radio wave coming from space, I want to do that. I can do that for educational application, even for personal study, the same way we do this. So many years ago, when we started the business, me and Omar decided to develop first and create the first compact radio telescope anybody can buy. And after the initial development, it was clear to us that was a very long road to take, a very long development experience to do. And that's why we divided the company into two brands. So we still have, of course, PrimaLuceLab brand is developing PrimaLuceLab devices for telescopes and astrophotography. And we have the part of the company that is still dedicated to radio telescopes. And we call it Radio to Space. So Radio to Space is the brand that we dedicate to radio telescopes. And this is where the spider comes from. So essentially, the spider is a compact radio telescope, is available in different dimensions, 2.3 meter to 5 meter in diameter. So it's big. It's compact relatively to a radio telescope. For a radio telescope is very compact. I still remember when I was talking to the first radio astronomers about what we were developing. They were telling to me, listen, it's just impossible to have such a compact radio telescope really recording data from anything else than the sun or the Milky Way hydrogen lines. If you want to do next level radio astronomy, you need to have a larger one. And we said, no, we want to try to develop something that still allows you to have a relatively compact antenna, because this way we are able to ship all over the world, we install all over the world to make life easy, but still to let you record radio astrophotography. That was my first request to our engineers and designers and to Omar too. I want to be able to record radio astrophotography in daytime. That's my goal. And this is now possible thanks to the spider.
If somebody wanted to buy a spider system for themselves, what are they looking at? Like, what does that cost?
So actually, the cost in US dollars starts around 25,000.
Okay.
For a kit that includes antenna, the electronic receiver, backend, all the radio parts with the software and everything, excluding the mount, since our solar system is specifically designed to convert an equatorial mount with 50 kilos payload capacity into a radio telescope.
Okay.
So without any modification, you take your mount and instead of connecting an OTA, you connect an antenna. instead of connecting a camera, you connect a receiver. And instead of using your astrophotography software, we have our dedicated 3D Universe Pro software. That is our cut-to-rail data processing software.
So if somebody had an EQ8,
yeah, perfect, exactly.
They could pull the optical tube off. They can put an antenna with a receiver on it, and they have a radio telescope system. They just need the electronics to go with it. And
absolutely. And you can do that in daytime. So in the moment you don't use the OTA, really, you can use the antenna, with the same mount. So it's really not, I shouldn't say portable, because it's 2.3 meter in diameter, so it's quite large. But it's not something that is impossible to do. And we already have private customers doing this in their backyards. And this is just the entry point. But the thing is that your AQ8 is not weatherproof. So you need to move it, or you need to cover somehow. So after we developed that first model of the Spider that is called Spider 230, we decided to develop our own weatherproof system based on Alta's mounts that are weatherproof. And so we developed the 3 meter and the 5 meter model that use our own developed Alta's mount that are completely weatherproof. So you can leave them outside, it's rainy, no problem. And the great thing of this is that since you can do radio astronomy in daytime with bad weather, if it's rainy, it doesn't matter. You can do that. And if you have a weatherproof system that can stay outside, you can use any time of the day, any weather condition. So it's perfect for schools that they may have their STEM lessons during the day, and they can do radio astronomy with a system that they own. The difference is doing radio astronomy with a radio telescope they own in their school versus downloading some data and processing some data. I really think that if you own a radio telescope, all the students, they will really understand what's going on. If they just process data, is not the same thing.
It's not the same. Yeah, because you go through the experience of capturing it and seeing the data come in and so on. Yeah, no, that's amazing. I can't think there isn't anyone else, I think, that builds a system that comes even close.
No, it's a unique proposal, actually. Absolutely different from anybody else that we saw in the past. Someone was building parts,
right?
But we really wanted to create a turnkey system. You just press on and it works.
Yeah.
Because radio astronomy is difficult. We understand that it's difficult. It's like CCD's cameras 30 years ago, at the beginning of something new.
Right. Yep.
And this is actually radio astronomy. So it's already a difficult thing to do. But if you have a system that works immediately, you can focus on getting data, so you can focus on the radio astronomy thing, not on how to make it work.
Yeah, it's exciting to think where you've brought radio astronomy now, right, and where it could potentially go. And I think of other technologies that I've had experience with. I used to use thermal cameras in the electrical fields to look for hotspots. And I remember speaking with a senior field rep that I learned a lot from him. In the 80s, they would have a thermal camera, but they would have to put liquid nitrogen in it so that they'd have a reference point for a temperature. And he's explaining all the systems and how big the camera was. And here I am thinking, but I just use something that fits in my hand. Yeah, right. And for your phone, you can buy an attachment for it now too, and it works. So it's exciting to think where what you've done with radio astronomy now, right, and then where it can be in 10, 15, 20 years from now, where it starts to become really compact, really accessible, right? Just from the groundbreaking actions that you've taken already to get it going, to get it into the hands of not just schools that wouldn't normally have their own equipment, to get it into private individuals as well, that they could have it in their backyard or at a property and be able to do it. So that's amazing. I want to ask about yourselves personally. Like, you're all astrophotographers, right? You all image. Is there one or two objects that you could image anytime? This is like what's it called? You're stranded on an island with a telescope and a camera, and you can only image one object. What would that object be?
I know what I have to reply to talk with Omar. Omar first. So that what I know that he best review. And then you want
M30.
Yeah, you see
It's a beautiful object. The Andromeda Galaxy, you can image it so many different ways and get a beautiful result.
Yeah. Tom, which one?
My favorite target is Horsehead, but Andromeda holds a special spot in my heart because I nearly died filming that.
Oh, that's a story. That's the story.
I was on a remote mountaintop in the Los Padres Mountains here in California, and I was filming Andromeda. I was on night 3, the last night of filming a mosaic of it because I wanted to get the whole width of this thing in. And it's about 2 a.m. I had to go use the latrine. There's a U.S. Forest lookout tower up there, and they have an outdoor latrine. And I went to go use the latrine, and I'd been sweeping the tree line with my red light just to make sure everything was all good. And out of nowhere, a mountain lion appeared about 12 or 15 feet away from me, and it was very upset and growling and staring me down. So I had to, had to get up, pull my pants up, and I kind of stood up on the commode. I had I reached down and grabbed a really big pine, like a thorny pine cone, and a rock. And I didn't really have anything else. And I stood up really high, and I waved my arms really big in the air, and I kept my spotlight on it. And I threw the pine cone with my weak arm, and then threw the rock at it as hard as I could with my right arm. And it kind of ran back into the darkness a little bit. And I ran downhill the other way to my Jeep and dove in. It was maybe 20 yards away or so. And after I dove in the Jeep and shut the door, I cracked the window down and looked out, and it walked down and was walking around my Jeep all night. So I was very thankful to have the eagle, and I didn't have to go out and touch it or do anything with it.
But still, this is a feature that is still not available, saving you from enemies.
Yeah, well, in a way it does.
That was a beta test.
And I was up there alone, and I probably shouldn't have been, and that's probably the last time I ever went up there alone.
I have the odd encounter with a raccoon, right? Which, they can be pretty nasty as well, right? Because they'll even come up to you. They don't care about you at all. They'll go through whatever they want and then just walk off if they're not interested. But
that same area now where the mountain lion happened, apparently there's also now bear. The bear have returned to that area. So I'm like, I'm done. I'm done with that mountain.
Yeah. That's where remote imaging is.
Get an observatory.
Yeah. Filippo, how about yourself? What is your image?
Yeah, well, I think it's easy because I'm a geologist. And it's what? So, I might be one, but since I'm a geologist, I'm in love with the moon because I see another planet. So, one of the coolest things that I really find fantastic in the Eagle is that I can use it for planetary imaging and save in the internal SSD disk huge video files and have them processed directly on the Eagle, and then I copy and paste my final picture directly on my Mac remotely. So it's so easy. And this is how I use it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so I'm always searching for faults, for volcanoes, for domes, and for this type of planetary features that I studied many years ago. And this is my joint point from my study levels to my business, So I try to merge the two things by doing some lunar geology thing by myself. So, but it's fine, just for fun.
That's what it's all about in the end, right? We take images for fun and to share and share that passion. Gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for your time.
Ciao.
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 Thank you for watching and subscribing. We will have another episode out shortly. And please check out PrimaLuce's products at their website,
PrimaLuceLab.com.
And check out all the information there. And if you have questions, feel free to send us an email on Ontario Telescope, or you can also send them directly to PrimaLuce as well, and you'll get a qualified answer. Good. Thank you very much. And we'll see everyone next time.